Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing well. This video is about the first round of the Manufacturers Cup Exhibition Series 2 from this year's World Series 2025, where the first round takes place at Fuji Speedway. And before I will show my qualifying lap as well as the entire onboard from the race, I wanted to talk about the race settings which have been used for the first round of the Manufacturers Cup Series here at Fuji Speedway. As you can see here, we were only allowed to use the hard tire compound for this race, and the multiplier being used for this race were not really that exciting, if I can say it nicely, because both the fuel consumption rate as well as the tire well multiplier has been set to ×1, and obviously for the qualifying session we were only having ×1 tire wear, and which makes things a little bit less exciting, as you can see here, where the arrow is pointing towards the minimum number of pit stops. There was none. So yeah. So now you're about to see my best qualifying lap I've done from the qualifying session yesterday. What I also would like to say here is this race, as well as the qualifying session here, was done from the first slot in split 2. So this was the second best split we've had in slot 1 yesterday. And what I can also say about the car choice I made for the Manufacturers Cup this year, or like for the exhibition series at least, I chose Alfa Romeo as my brand because I felt like the car might have some good chances for the other tracks. Not really, or like not necessarily for Fuji Speedway, except I'm sorry, like even though this car was quite competitive in Sector 1, but then in Sector 2 as well as in Sector 3, I felt like due to the way that we were only allowed to use the hard tire compound for this race, yeah, it kinda made the traction on this car a little bit worse. I mean, obviously it's the same for every single car out there, but as the gearing of this car is quite short, especially for the low speed corners, such as through these corners here, like for me personally, I wish the second gear would have been a tiny bit longer, or I would have been able to use the third gear a bit earlier. But if I was using the third gear there, like a little bit earlier, then I wouldn't have had the turbo boost for the upcoming corner and would have lost a lot of time in the end. So we are about to finish our first qualifying lap here. As you can see here, the first sector was quite competitive. I did a 0.5 there, but unfortunately my second sector wasn't really that good, as well as my third sector being alright, I think. But we are about to do a 0.8 as a banker lap, which is still really solid considering I was driving the Alfa Romeo here. But nevertheless, we are going to try and set our final qualifying lap attempt here, which you guys can see here. But unfortunately, we kind of missed turn 1 here, which led to our sector 1 not being as good as the one we did previously. But nevertheless, our entry into the first corner of sector 2 was a little bit better compared to the one I did before, into the Coca-Cola corner, I mean. Additionally, the last corner here on the left hand side was also a little bit better, I felt like, especially the traction being like out of the corner was also a bit better, because as we were using the hard tire compound for this race, it was also a little bit crucial and essential to try and heat up your tires as much as you can, or like as much as you were able to do on your out lap, so that you would have a little bit of tire temperature for your qualifying attempts here. But what you're also about to see here is that I think Sector 3 was still really good so far, and Sector 2 being quite good compared to the one I did previously. But unfortunately with the circuit, it's a little bit easy to get some track limits here. As you can see here, unfortunately I ran a little bit too wide there. I was hoping not to get a penalty, but yeah, we got a penalty here. So that meant that I was going to finish at P3 at maximum, because with the penalty I wasn't really able to improve my lap time anymore. But nevertheless, it gives us a really good starting position for the race, and I will catch you guys later once the race starts. So we are about to start the race now, and as you guys can see, Miro was starting the race from pole position, where he also set a really good lap time before, with Ghost Baby starting the race from P2. And yeah, so from my side, I also would like to mention that unfortunately I didn't really have enough time to practice for this race. With that I mean not really having enough time to practice what's like to have fuel on board. Because if you have fuel on board, obviously the car is going to have behave a little bit differently here compared to the other one you were going to use for the qualifying session without any fuel on board. But nevertheless, I still wanted to try and see what I can do for this race, because with the slipstream being on custom, once again, especially, I'm sorry, not especially, like as well as my car being quite good in Sector 1 due to its top speed, I was still trying not to lose a lot of time in Sector 3 here, where the Huracan excelled a little bit more than the Alfa Romeo. But nevertheless, I was still trying to take it a little bit easy here, because I was still trying to figure out the braking points for the Alpha, especially if you have slipstream, right? Going into turn 1, where you have such an overspeed, you can easily miss the braking point here. So that's why I was still trying to drive cautiously here. But what I also would like to mention already is that I kinda underestimated the tire temperature probably, as we were using the hard tire compound for this race, because I think at around lap 6 or lap 7, or like even from lap 8 onwards, I felt like the front tires were a little bit overheated, because on one lap, especially in sector 3, it felt like I didn't really have enough grip to turn into the corners anymore, but on the following lap, I was having grip once again, so it was a little bit weird from my side. Maybe you will be able to see it throughout the entire race, but don't worry, I won't be talking till the end of the race here, because there's nothing really exciting to watch. I'm sorry, nothing really exciting to talk about. Because in terms of the strategy, it's a race till the end without any pit stops, as a mandatory pit stop wasn't required, and we were also using the hard tire compounds only with a fuel and tire wall multiplier set to ×1. So the only thing you had to be careful about was not to receive any penalties, like any track limit penalties especially. But if you did that, then you should be having a good race. But obviously it also depends on the drivers surrounding you, if they were also trying to go for the move or not, or if they were faster than you at some point. Because for me personally, I felt like I was the slowest from the top 4, because you will be able to see that Furious Knights, he's the driver in P4. Like, his pace was really good in the Porsche, and I also felt like he could have overtaken me through a few corners, or like on some laps. But I really appreciated the teamwork we've done, or like we've done for this race here. But at the beginning we were still trying to settle down so that we could all do our own pace, because it was easily doable to battle against each other. But if you did that, then obviously you would lose a lot of time, and thus all the other drivers behind of you, they were able to close the gap more, or like close the gap down to you, and they would also join the battle for the victory, right? So I think from my point of view, I wanted to try and avoid any battles, because I think I mentioned this on one of my previous videos before, but for me personally, I always try and prefer like settling it down for the first couple of laps, and only towards the end of the race I would maybe try to go for the moves, unless you have some special circumstances before, like at the beginning of the race, where you really have to go for these moves, right? Because if you can try and avoid losing any unnecessary time, that would not only help you but also help the other drivers, right? Because all of us, we would like to finish as high as possible whenever we do a race, let it be a daily race or one of the World Series races. So I think that's mainly it, because I will let you guys enjoy the rest of the video here. Maybe you will see some drama happening, maybe, maybe not, let's see. But from my side, I hope all of you guys who did the first round of the Manufacturers Cup races, you guys were having a great race. And if you also decide to do the second round of the Manufacturers Cup Exhibition Series for the season, then I also would like to wish you all the best, and hopefully you guys can also achieve the results you would like to get in the end. So from my side, I would like to wish you all a nice day, stay safe, and hopefully I'll be able to see you guys on the next video. So until then, have a nice weekend, and see ya!